Today I wanted to talk about some of the biggest remakes that are coming in the next couple of years. Some of my favorite games are being remade, so I'm really looking forward to a lot of them. Though, I'll be honest, a few I'm a bit worried about. Let's jump right into it with one of my favorite series of all time. The Witcher is an incredible series of games, and the last game that came out is in my top 2 games of all time. The reasons for that are many. The incredibly rich world with a ton of story, that story being expanded on with side quests and side content that was actually both enjoyable and built the world even more, and having some of the best characters of any game that I've ever played, pretty much. With their own unique reasons for doing what they do, outside of the main story and the main character, which is something that a lot of games stumble through. They kind of just have characters that are there to be there for the main character. It's a very common thing that people mess up in storytelling. So you can imagine how excited I was to hear the original Witcher is being remade. There isn't a ton of information on exactly what that will look like, but The Witcher was definitely in dire need of a remake. It was made in a time where CD Projekt Red were still getting their feet on the ground, so the combat system is very weird and unique, but didn't quite feel great, and it hadn't yet reached the level that they would get to in terms of cinematic storytelling, things like that. But there were very clear glimpses of something special already, and the remake has no clear release date, but hopefully we'll hear more about it soon. Metal Gear Solid 3 has one of the greatest moments in gaming of all time that really showed off Kojima's brilliance, but to some people that probably just looks like some scruffy looking guy climbing up a ladder. Now, Konami has decided to bring that experience back to us, updated and remade, which sounds like a big ask to me. How do you keep the ideas and feeling of a Kojima game without the man himself? It's hard to believe that Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater originally came out in 2004, so that's 20 years. For a look back on other things that came out around that time, we had Tony Hawk's Underground, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, Half-Life 2, and Far Cry 1. But honestly, the remake engine actually looks amazing. If there's one thing that Konami has excelled at for a long time, it's making game engines that work and run well. Though I can't speak for more recent attempts, considering Metal Gear Solid 5 came out almost 10 years ago at this point, so we'll see if they've still got it in them, at least for remaking a game that was already incredible. It will be releasing sometime later this year. And speaking of games that were already incredible, also by Konami, Silent Hill 2 is the apex of the Silent Hill series for a lot of people, and funnily enough, it's also another Konami game. They really are just pushing out old games, aren't they? Well, I'm happy to see it, to be honest, since Silent Hill 2 is well worth bringing back, and we'll see if the iconic Pyramid Head hits the same 23 years later. This is where a lot of inspiration for the survival horror genre comes from, and it's still considered one of the greatest horror games of all time. It's right up there with the Resident Evil games, and considering how well the remakes of that series went, I have a lot of hopes for the Silent Hill 2 remake. Whether it will live up to that, we'll have to wait and see. But much like the Metal Gear Solid trailers, looks pretty incredible so far. Hopefully that holds true on release. It will be releasing sometime later this year. Age of Mythology is one of those games that came out during the golden age of RTS, back when we thought the genre would live forever. Well, we were right that StarCraft Brood War would live on forever, but the genre itself maybe not so much, and as much as I love the genre myself. Age of Mythology Retold looks to bring one of the most fun RTS games from that time back, all the way from the year 2002. If you've never played Age of Mythology, it has a lot in common with Ensemble Studios' other big RTS series, Age of Empires, the difference being that you have godlike powers and you can summon massive creatures to take down your foes. The campaign was pretty huge, with around 50 different missions to complete, and they're bringing the ability to play against other players. So whether you want a single player experience or you want to play against your friends, you'll be able to do either one. And that will be releasing on Steam sometime in 2024. The next 2 games are the ones I'm the most worried about, and the people that are remaking them aren't the original studios that created them, And what has been shown has been a bit rocky, the kind of mixed reactions. Gothic 1 Remake has actually had a decent amount of information come out about it, including a demo that came out some time ago, which has since been removed. The demo was met with mixed feelings by a lot of the community. Some people really enjoyed it, and some people really disliked it. So it's hard to say where the remake will land, considering there has been barely any new information out of them. Though there are some new screenshots. I think they've done a pretty good job of nailing the aesthetic visually, and there were signs in the demo of the combat being decently fun. So it's not all doom and gloom, and it has the potential to be something very good. But until we see something more solid, I think it's healthy to remain skeptical, especially because, I don't know, that collector's edition looks a bit sparse to me, and it was $200, so that seemed a bit crazy to me, but maybe some people want that, and that's fine. The release date is sometime in 2024. The last game that I'll mention is one of my favorite games of all time, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Now, this one actually has me pretty concerned. There's been barely any information at all about it since it was announced. Nothing visual that we can see really, other than I think there's this trailer. But what we do know is the remake is still being developed, but it's being developed by Saber Interactive, who from what I can tell have no real credentials for making something this important or large before. From what I can tell, they've mostly put out mobile games, and occasionally racing games of some sort. A game about mud running, maybe that was okay, but doesn't really inspire any sort of confidence that they can remake one of the greatest sci-fi RPGs of all time. But I guess all we can really do is hope for the best, and I want them to succeed for sure. But I can't help feeling that they're the wrong developer, and someone else should have been chosen. I'd say that out of the remakes that we've seen, The Witcher remake has the most promise, and that's without actually seeing it. And I'm definitely super biased on this one, I'll be honest. But the reason for this, and I think this is a bit more logical, is that CD Projekt Red themselves are overseeing the project. They've already proven that even if they screw up, they're willing to put in the time and effort to make it better. The KOTOR Knights of the Old Republic remake kind of has infinite potential, but I'm afraid it won't even meet the lowest standards of what we would want, unfortunately. I have very little faith in Saber Interactive to deliver on it, especially considering the explosion of the Embracer group, which they were under, into 3 different groups. But hopefully I'm wrong on that one. I really hope I'm wrong on that one. So that's about it. A bunch of remakes from a lot of different companies, all really cool games that deserve to be remade into something even more brilliant. So I have hopes that a lot of them will do well. Thanks for watching.